On the 12th of June 2025, the world witnessed a disaster no one saw coming. Air India Flight AI171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner bound for London Gatwick, lifted off from Ahmedabad under clear skies. Less than 45 seconds later, it was gone. What should have been a routine journey turned into India's deadliest aviation tragedy in over a decade. 241 people perished. But one man survived. Seat 11A. His name? Vishwash Kumar Ramesh. And his survival has left everyone, from rescue teams to spiritual leaders, asking the same question. Was it a miracle? At exactly 1:38 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Air India Flight AI171 taxied down the runway at Ahmedabad International Airport. It was carrying 230 passengers and 11 crew members, a full flight. Most were Indian nationals, but there were also travelers from the UK, the UAE, and one American student returning home. The aircraft, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, had passed all routine checks just days before. Captain Sumit Sabharwal and his co-pilot, Isha Puri, were experienced flyers. They had flown this very route dozens of times. Everything seemed normal. Until it wasn't. Just 35 seconds after takeoff, Captain Sabharwal radioed a mayday. His exact words, recorded by ATC. "We're experiencing abnormal thrust. Attempting return. Unable to gain altitude." Witnesses on the ground later said the aircraft didn't climb beyond a few hundred feet. It appeared to hover. Then it dropped. The Boeing struck the roof of the BJ Medical College hostel block, its fuselage shearing through several rooms. Moments later, the tail section detached and flipped over onto a nearby building. A fireball ignited as one engine exploded on impact. Inside the plane, panic had erupted. Rescue teams began pulling out charred bodies, pieces of luggage, and twisted metal. But amid the wreckage, they found him. One man, conscious, bleeding from his forehead, limping but alive. Vishwash Kumar Ramesh. A 34-year-old IT engineer from Birmingham, UK. Seated in 11A, a window seat on the left side, just ahead of the wing. He had booked the seat 2 days before because it had a better view. And that seat saved his life. When the plane crashed, the left fuselage section ripped open right next to row 11, shattering the wall and the emergency exit beside it. The rest of the cabin crumpled like paper. But Vishwash, thrown sideways but still strapped in, landed between 2 rows, shielded by a broken trolley and part of the inner fuselage. He escaped through a hole in the wall, barefoot and dazed. In a viral interview with NDTV, Vishwash said, "It felt like something lifted me up. I don't even know how I got out. My body moved before my mind did. I don't remember climbing. I remember being carried." He went on. "There was this card in my pocket, a little laminated prayer card. My mum gave it to me before I left. It had a picture of Pope Leo. I'm not even super religious, but maybe she was right to send it." As reporters dug deeper, they found that Vishwash's mother had recently become a devout follower of Pope Leo XIV. She had participated in one of his global live stream blessings just a week earlier. She printed the Pope's final words from the live stream on the back of the card and told her son, "Keep this in your pocket. Just in case." The prayer in question wasn't ordinary. On June 5, Pope Leo XIV held a rare, unscheduled online prayer for all travelers facing fear and uncertainty in the modern world. He spoke softly. His words were simple but powerful. "May the Lord hold those in the skies gently in his palm. And if the storm comes, may they not fall, but be caught by grace." It aired on Vatican News. A few 100,000 tuned in. Vishwash's mother was one of them. And 1 week later, her son survived what experts now call an unsurvivable crash. As word of the crash spread, and Vishwash's survival became global news, speculation around the Pope's blessing gained momentum. Pilgrims began leaving flowers at the site of the crash. Some called him the man of 11A. Others called him Pope Leo's prophecy fulfilled. The Vatican issued a brief statement. The Holy Father has been made aware of the tragic events surrounding Flight AI171. He mourns with those who mourn. We recognize with awe the story of the survivor and invite all to reflect on the mystery of God's protection in times of despair. That was it. No denial. No confirmation. Just space. For people to wonder. For Vishwash, the attention was overwhelming. He told a BBC reporter, "I didn't ask to be part of a miracle story. But if people find hope in this, then maybe that's okay." He did confirm the card was real. He showed it on camera. On the front, Pope Leo XIV holding a globe. On the back, "May the Lord hold those in the skies gently in his palm." Investigators confirmed that no other passenger near 11A survived. Rows 9 through 14 were among the worst hit. Some seats were obliterated. Vishwash's seat? Bent. But intact. A broken service trolley was later found crushed beside it, forming a kind of cocoon. His seatbelt was still fastened. The wall next to him had blown open just enough for a body to fit through. A miracle? Statisticians say the odds of surviving that impact in that seat were less than 1 in 3,000. While the world mourned the 241 lives lost, tributes poured in for the pilots. Reports confirm Captain Sabharwal tried to bank the aircraft left to avoid the densely populated hospital block. It likely prevented an even higher ground death toll. They died trying to save others. Vishwash later said, "If I survived, it's because the pilot gave me a chance to. That's the miracle." In less than a week, Seat 11A trended on platforms worldwide. YouTube channels called it divine geometry. TikTok's psychics analyzed Vishwash's birth chart. Some Christians believe it was divine intervention. Others say it was fate meeting faith. But everyone agrees, something strange happened. And it happened at 11A. As the world tried to make sense of the Air India Flight AI171 tragedy, questions turned from what happened to why. Why did a brand new Dreamliner drop from the sky seconds after takeoff? Why did 241 souls perish, yet one man in seat 11A walk away alive? And what's even stranger, why did someone seem to have predicted it? On June 14th, just 2 days after the crash, the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, the black boxes, were recovered intact from the wreckage. India's aviation authority worked with experts from Boeing and the US NTSB. The findings were stunning. 30 seconds into takeoff, the aircraft suffered a dual thrust imbalance. Engine 1 delivered reduced thrust. Engine 2 overcompensated. The Dreamliner, unable to maintain altitude, stalled. What made this even more tragic was the fact that Captain Sabharwal had attempted a textbook recovery. He initiated flap control, cut fuel flow, tried nose-down leveling, all within seconds. The cockpit recording ends with his final words. "Brace, brace. May God help us." According to data and reconstructed 3D models of the cabin impact, the 11A seat was in the direct fracture line where the fuselage split. Most seats in that area were destroyed on impact. So how did 11A remain intact? A team from the Indian Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, revealed a chilling detail. At the exact point of breakage, a supply cart had jammed diagonally across the aisle, deflecting metal debris and shielding a 3-foot radius. That radius? Directly around seat 11A. They called it a freak occurrence. But for many, it was something else entirely. This is Sister Elsie Matthew, a Carmelite nun known for her quiet life and contemplative prayer. She rarely spoke to outsiders. Until now. In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, she had a vision. In a handwritten letter shared only with her spiritual director, she wrote, "I saw a man falling from the sky, not by death, but by deliverance. He sat at a window where the air had broken open. Angels carried him into the light." The letter was dated August 11, 2020. The vision was so vivid that the bishop at the time, Father Joseph Kalapurikal, had it sealed in the archives of the diocesan office. When news broke that Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, seat 11A, escaped through a broken wall beside a window, many in her community remembered the letter. The diocese later confirmed its authenticity. Was it just coincidence? Or was Sister Elsie seeing something years before it unfolded? The story gripped the world. Some called Vishwash the chosen one. Others accused the media of exploiting tragedy for entertainment. But most people, religious or not, felt moved by the imagery. A survivor. A card with a papal blessing. A prophetic vision. And the number 11A, which now trended globally. In London, crowds gathered outside the St. Joseph Catholic Church to light candles. In Kerala, pilgrims visited the diocesan chapel to pray beside Sister Elsie's written prophecy. In the Vatican, an aide close to Pope Leo XIV was quoted saying, "The Holy Father believes that miracles are never declarations, they are invitations. This event, whether miracle or mystery, invites us to reflect on how heaven still speaks." In a second interview, this time with Sky News UK, Vishwash elaborated on what he remembered at the moment of the crash. Everything went white. Like a bright flash, but not fire. It was quiet, then like I was underwater. I remember feeling pulled. Not dragged. Pulled, like someone had my hand. He said he didn't see anyone. But he remembers a voice. Stand up now. You are not finished. Was it shock? Hallucination? Or something beyond? He paused before adding, I don't know what saved me. But I know it wasn't just luck. The number 11A became a subject of fascination. Numerologists pointed out that 11 is considered a master number, symbolizing spiritual insight and protection. In the Bible, chapter 11 of several books often deals with judgment and divine escape. The letter A, in some traditions, signifies beginning or authority. Some Christians pointed to Psalm 91 verse 11, which reads, For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. Others cited Hebrews 11 verse 1, a verse on faith. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Coincidence? Or divine poetry hidden in the wreckage? The prayer card gifted by Vishwash's mother, now dubbed the Miracle Card, became an international sensation. It featured a digital still from Pope Leo XIV's June 5 live stream, with a short benediction on the back. May the Lord hold those in the skies gently in his palm. Print shops in India and Italy began reproducing it. Instagram Reels, TikTok remixes, and Facebook prayer chains featured digital versions of the card, shared millions of times. A Catholic store in Rome sold out of physical prints within hours. And all because of one man, in 11A. Some experts pushed back against the miracle narrative. Dr. Nehal Kulkarni, an aviation safety analyst, said, We understand the emotional pull of survival stories. But scientifically, Vishwash survived due to seat design, physics of the impact angle, and random object deflection. These are mechanical, not mystical, factors. But others weren't so sure. Dr. Carl Edmondson, a structural engineer from Germany, stated, The cart angle, seat trajectory, and fuselage tear alignment make for a survival pocket less than 0.5 meters. It's improbable. That said, what is improbable can still be miraculous. On Sunday, June 15, 3 days after the crash, Pope Leo XIV spoke during a global mass dedicated to aviation victims. With candles lighting St. Peter's Basilica, he said, The world mourns. And we mourn with them. But in mourning, we find mystery. And in mystery, sometimes a sign. If even one is saved to remind the others that God is not silent, then that is grace enough. He paused before adding, To the survivor, we see you. Your breath is a psalm. Your steps are a story heaven will finish writing. That single sentence became immortalized in posters, posts, and prayers worldwide. Vishwash remains under medical observation. He's walking again, slowly. Physically, he's healing. Emotionally, he's still processing. He's received over 80,000 letters, emails, and social media messages. People ask him what he'll do next. He says he doesn't know yet. But he keeps that prayer card close. And every morning, he prays not just for himself, but for the 241 who didn't make it. and for the 38 lives lost on the ground. The Air India Flight AI171 crash was more than a national tragedy. It cracked open hearts, systems, and questions. What began as a freak disaster has evolved into a movement of faith, of reform, and of remembrance. And now, part of the wreckage is being preserved. Not as debris, but as something sacred. By June 19th, a full week after the crash, India's Ministry of Civil Aviation released preliminary findings. Key takeaways: thrust imbalance in engine 1, left, was the initiating factor. Flap malfunction prevented proper aerodynamic lift. Captain Sabharwal's actions were exemplary under impossible odds. Air traffic control had no fault. Weather was clear. The GX 1B70 engine, built by GE Aviation, is now under review worldwide. The US NTSB, working alongside Indian authorities, has ordered urgent checks across all Boeing 787-8s using similar engines. Globally, 7 airlines grounded aircraft within days. Pope Leo XIV's Vatican team released a statement thanking all those working to ensure truth, accountability, and future protection. On June 18, a decision was made by the Indian government. The seat frame of 11A, though bent and blackened, would be preserved. It was delivered to Mumbai's Aviation Disaster Memorial Hall, placed in a climate-controlled glass enclosure. Next to it, a plaque reads, "In memory of the 241 souls lost, and in honor of the ones spared. Seat 11A, recovered from Flight AI171. The decision has sparked emotional reactions. Families of victims called it both painful and beautiful. Pilgrims now travel to the site, pressing their hands to the glass and whispering prayers." Just 1 week after the crash, churches across India reported a 38% increase in attendance. Some reopened confession booths for the first time since the pandemic. In London, 3 churches held a Mass of gratitude for 11A. Over 600 people attended. Pope Leo XIV, addressing the faithful in his midweek blessing, said, "In times of despair, the soul reaches not for proof, but for presence. Let the Church be that presence." His message was reshared over 10 million times online. In his third interview, now with the Catholic Herald, Vishwash spoke not of miracles, but of mission. "I feel like I was spared to do something. I don't know what that is yet. But I don't think it's just about surviving." He showed his well-worn prayer card, now laminated and kept in a small leather pouch. The words on the back, I keep reading them. Not because they saved me, but because they remind me to live differently now. He now volunteers with aviation trauma support groups and has started writing a journal about the 72 seconds between takeoff and survival. On June 20th, a sealed envelope arrived at Jaslock Hospital. It was hand-delivered by the Vatican's Apostolic Nuncio to India. Inside was a letter, handwritten, signed by Pope Leo XIV. In it the pontiff said, "Dear Vishwash, I have read of your story. I have wept with your pain and wondered at your grace. You were not saved to be worshipped. You were spared to witness. The Church does not call it miracle or myth. We call it mystery. And in that mystery, you are not alone." He included a wooden rosary blessed during a private mass at St. Peter's Basilica. The crash and the survival story of Seat 11A have inspired interfaith reflection. In a mosque in Gujarat, an imam spoke during Friday prayers. "God's mercy is not limited to religion. One man's survival is all our reminder." In a Sikh temple in Amritsar, the grantee led a collective artis for the victims and a blessing for Vishwash. A Hindu pundit in Chennai told local media, "Divine grace is real. Whether it comes through Vishnu, Allah, or Christ, it is real. Even atheists and skeptics have admitted." This story has shaken logic and stirred something deeper. Boeing's top leadership issued a global apology and announced $200 million toward families of victims. Permanent grounding of specific GX-powered Dreamliner variants until full audit. A new Passenger Survivability Task Force created, with Vishwash invited to serve in an honorary advisory role. The CEO, John W. Turner, said, While only one walked away, all 241 deserve our vow. This must never happen again. Within days of the event, artists began interpreting the story. In Kochi, a mural was painted showing a glowing silhouette stepping out of a broken aircraft wall, guided by angel wings. In Italy, a song titled, "The One Who Walked from Flame," hit Catholic Spotify playlists. On Instagram, hashtags like #11amiracle, #PopeLest, and #FlyWithFaith surpassed 80 million views. The image of Seat 11A, half broken but upright, has become a symbol, not just of survival, but of second chances. Some say calling this a miracle diminishes the loss of 241 others. Others argue that it honors it, that the survival of one can be a sign for all. Theologian Dr. Maria Osakwi explains, "In Scripture, miracles are not about the few being favored. They are messages to the many." Meanwhile, Dr. Nalin Rao, a secular scholar, counters, "We must remember, reverence can coexist with science. But let's never stop asking questions. Still, millions light candles. Still, millions believe." On June 21, Pope Leo XIV called for a global moment of silence. At 1:41 p.m. IST, the exact moment of the crash, cities around the world paused. In London, Big Ben rang once. In Delhi, traffic stood still for 60 seconds. In New York, bells tolled from St. Patrick's Cathedral. In Rome, Pope Leo knelt in the Vatican gardens, his head bowed in silence. The moment wasn't just about loss. It was about mystery, memory, and the fragile miracle of breath. When the world watched the wreckage of Flight AI171 burn, no one expected hope to survive the flames. But in one seat, one soul walked away. And now, that seat has become more than a number. It has become a testimony. Nearly 2 weeks after the crash, Vishwash has undergone 2 surgeries, countless hours of therapy, and psychological counseling. Doctors say he's healing faster than anyone expected. But it's not just his body that's changing. He has publicly announced he will not return to his tech job in the UK. Instead, he's launching a global nonprofit foundation called 11A, the Grace Initiative. Mission: to support aviation crash survivors, trauma victims, and children who've lost family in accidents. In his public announcement, Vishwash said, "If I was spared, it wasn't for me. It was so others could find help when their world breaks open." Every day, hundreds arrive. From all over India. From Sri Lanka. From Ireland. From Nigeria. They come with candles, letters, and photos. Some come to cry. Some come to pray. Some come with children telling them, "This seat reminds us that hope lives even in fire." A woman from Kerala whispered at the display, "I lost my brother on that plane. But seeing this, I believe he was not alone." The relic is no longer just a twisted frame of metal. It is a shrine. A symbol. A mystery. On June 23, in his Sunday Angelus address, Pope Leo XIV dropped a surprise. "We will preserve a piece of Seat 11A inside the Vatican Museum of Modern Martyrs." The crowd gasped. It is not for worship. It is not for idolatry. It is to remind the world that in the wreckage of our lives, grace still reaches in. Sometimes, even in a metal frame. He concluded. Seat 11A is not a miracle because one lived. It is a miracle because the world remembered how precious one life is. A replica of Seat 11A, built using actual salvaged steel, has been created. It will sit next to artifacts of other modern-day martyrs and survivors. A burned Bible from a Rwandan church. A child's shoe from Aleppo. A broken guitar from a Christian singer in Nigeria. Vishwash has been invited to Rome for the official unveiling. He said, "I never imagined I'd stand in the Vatican, because of a chair." Over 12,000 children have sent cards and drawings to Vishwash. Some show airplanes with angels holding them up. Others draw Vishwash as a superhero in a cape marked 11A. One little girl from London wrote, "Dear Mr. Vishwash, my mummy says God gave you a bubble. Thank you for not dying so we know God still does stuff." He reads them all. He cries at most of them. Not every night is peaceful. He wakes up sometimes screaming, smelling jet fuel, feeling trapped. In an interview with The Guardian, he admitted, "I have survivor's guilt. I hear the screams in my dreams. I sometimes wish I hadn't made it, but then I read a letter, or talk to someone who tells me their faith came back because of 11A, and I find my breath again." His therapist says these emotions are common. But Vishwash says something more. "The Pope's letter told me, you were spared to witness. So I try to be a witness, even when I'm still bleeding inside." In India, new aviation protocols have been fast-tracked. Emergency exit access is being re-engineered. Air India has begun mental health training for cabin crew. In the US and Europe, safety checks on Dreamliner engines have been expanded. Faith leaders hold prayer vigils for travelers weekly now. In classrooms, Seat 11A has become a case study on resilience, randomness, and reverence. In homes, families say grace at dinner. Children ask their parents about heaven again. On June 27, Vishwash met Pope Leo XIV in person. His mother knelt and kissed the Pope's ring. Pope Leo lifted her up and embraced her. To Vishwash, he said, "You are not special. You are sent." He handed him a silver medallion, inscribed with Psalm 91 verse 11, "For he shall give his angels charge over you." They prayed together in silence. And in that moment, two stories, two continents, two worlds, collided in stillness. Inspired by Vishwash and the events surrounding 11A, multiple countries are pushing for a World Survivors' Day, an international day of honoring those who survive against all odds. The campaign is informally called 11A Day. Proposals include candlelight vigils at major airports, scholarships for orphaned children of accident victims, free trauma counseling awareness drives, spiritual reflection days in schools and workplaces. The Vatican has voiced support. UNESCO is reviewing a proposal. In his final public statement before returning to private life, Vishwash said, "I don't know why I was saved. I don't know what makes one seat collapse and another hold firm. I don't know what grace is supposed to look like. But I know this. Every breath is a second chance. Every heartbeat is a psalm. And every seat could be someone's miracle." He looked into the camera. "If you're watching this, tell the people you love that you love them. Don't wait for a crash to remember how sacred life is." From metal and fire came memory. From one survivor came hope. And from one seat came 1,000 prayers. Seat 11A is no longer just a number. It's a story. A sign. A silent witness to something the world may never fully explain.